Hi, Malachy here from Tier Lawn Country Life. Just here today to tell you about Australian tree ferns, or Dixonia, just beside one here in my garden. I just thought it would help to explain about them because they're quite expensive to buy in garden centres these days, and they're not just a kind of an everyday plant, so therefore it'd be good to understand on how to care for them and what maintenance they may require. So essentially in Australia they grow underneath trees and eucalyptus forests, and they tend to grow in gullies where rain will collect whenever they get rain. So they do actually like dampness, and they like a little bit of shade as well. So a tree fern in a very open position won't generally be as good as a tree fern that will be in a slightly shaded area. So this is nearly the perfect area, this one here with the tree overhead, even though it may be slightly drier, so I keep an eye on it for water. At this time of year now they've just gotten their new season's leaves. So these leaves can grow to about 6 feet long. So if you imagine I'm about 6 feet high, and the leaves are nearly as long as me there. So they're very dramatic in the garden, and some people say they kind of look like a dinosaur type plant because of the Jurassic shape to them. But in our garden here anyway, our ground tends to be a little bit dry, so I do water it, and also I feed it about once a month in the growing season, which is about April through till September. So to get nice healthy dark green leaves like this, you need to feed it. If you find that your tree fern has shorter leaves or very pale yellow leaves, it really needs to be fed, and also you need to keep the trunk moist. So essentially the leaves here, the trunk is made up out of the old leaves, so you can see remnants of old leaves here. And over about 10 years or so they can grow a foot of trunk, which is also why they're quite expensive to buy normally, because it takes quite a while for a plant to get this big. It's roughly around 25-30 years old, this particular plant here now. So essentially the trunk is actually made up out of old leaves and then roots which have grown through, and they bind it together. So that's why the trunk also needs to be kept moist as best you can anyway. So in my garden, after about 2 weeks with no rain, I tend to water it, and I'll give it a good drop of water as well. So at least 2 of these watering cans into the trunk, and 1 or 2 around the roots in the ground as well. So it is. So on the feeding side of things then, I use seaweed, liquid seaweed, which is very good because it's instantly active and ready for the plant to take up. And we have a baby bio, which has lots of vitamins and minerals that the plants actually need as well. So I find both of them quite good. In this case today now I'll use the baby bio. So normally you put in 2 capfuls into this size watering can, which is 10 litres or so. So it's usually about two of these. And as I say, about once a month is enough actually to feed these. So just give that a little bit of a mix. So the ideal is that you pour it in on the trunk here, and that actually soaks into the trunk because it's kind of like a loofah. It's very porous, and it's also why they dry out very quickly as well, because they are prone to drying out. And I'll just give the area around the root zone a feed as well. So the plant will take up that feed and will put a lot of the nutrients into the leaf, so that's why it'll be lovely and green and dark, which is preferable. And then on the maintenance side of it then, essentially in winter time they're nearly hardy in Ireland. So if you are in an area where you will get cold winters, like say inland in Ireland, you will get -5 and -6 temperatures like that in the winter time. So what I do at home here is I take off an old leaf, and you can use fleece as well. It doesn't make too much odds, but I try to use natural material in my garden here. So I'm going to use the old leaves, and I crunch them up like that, and I put them into the center until I have a collection of leaves around about the size of a soccer ball or a football. And that is enough insulation in my garden anyway to keep my plants in good order. If you're a little bit more inland in Ireland, perhaps you can put fleece around the top and protect the trunk, because you're trying to protect the growing point of the fern. That's the only bud it has. If that gets killed with frost, the whole plant will actually die. So it's good that you do that, usually at the end of October or so, before the serious frosts come in. And the only other little bit of maintenance then, and it's really just for aesthetics, is to tidy off these old leaves. So you leave the brand new growth alone, because they're lovely and dark green. They're making food for the plant from the sun. But in a tidy garden, most people will tend to take these old leaves off to expose the trunk so that you can actually see the trunk, which is why a lot of them are growing that way anyway. So now you can see the trunk, and you can see that the leaves are all old leaves, all rooted into the trunk like this. So that's most of it anyway, as such anyway. That's what I do in my garden. I find to good effect anyway. So if you have moisture and shade and feed, that's essentially what the tree ferns need anyway to keep them healthy. So thanks very much for watching.